Robin, you're on mute.
The link, thank you. The link I had was Teams. I was sitting in there all by myself. So 30 minutes?
Yeah, you sent that as a Teams link initially, and I thought that was just a placeholder.
Oh, it was me.
Well, when you create an event on Outlook, it'll create it as Teams because they're all connected. It's marketing.
What are you eating?
Pita Pit. A gyro from Pita Pit.
Nice.
Quite
How are
yummy.
you tonight? How are you guys both? Cassandra, how are you?
Good. Thank you, Robin. Wasn't ready for the snow showers.
Yeah, is it a bit?
Yeah, it's
dumping at my house.
Yeah, it's looking like there's
dumping
some weather.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's sticking.
Oh wow. I saw that Mount Rose got a foot. Hi Justin. Are we live?
We are live. Ready to go.
I think this is us for tonight. This is preparing for re-entry, coping in a COVID world, creating a new world with COVID behind us. I don't know. We can call it what we want. We're kind of thinking maybe this might be our last one, unless, you know, there's some kinds of changes that come up that we're not anticipating and would reconnoiter and reconvene if needed. What do you all think about that?
Whatever,
yeah, I'm fine.
community asks for, we're here for. We're
there
here
you
for
go.
You guys.
They canceled the technical meeting that we used to have every other week, where people would call in with their questions, and I was super happy about that. So
okay,
because we didn't have anything new to tell anybody. So
yeah. Okay, so we'll be here for a half hour. I mean, unless we get a ton of people that have a lot of things to talk about, then we'll stay the full hour. You can put something in the Q&A right here on the Zoom, or because we're on Facebook Live, Justin checks the Facebook Live at Mono County Behavioral Health, and if you have comments or questions, we'll answer those as well. My dogs are playing. I just got home, so my dogs are playing because that's what you do. I want to let everybody know that if you haven't yet been vaccinated and you would like to, that you can do that in Mono County. With pretty much, I mean, it's been a pretty straightforward, streamlined experience. So if you're interested, go to the county website and click on vaccination, and you'll get to the place you need to be to register. If you're interested, now's the time. The clinics are still running. Please do so. I know that, I don't know about you all, I got vaccinated a while ago, actually. So as the world's been vaccinated and people are starting to, my pod got bigger in a way that I hadn't really thought about, but on its own, really, as more and more people in my life, family and friends were vaccinated, and we decided to get together. It's made a big difference in how I am in the world, and I'm starting to make plans. And I'm wondering about you all. I know you all have different experiences, but how's it going? How are you doing? What's it like? Justin, what's it like with your kids and your family?
I'm so glad to hear that you're making plans. You seem to be lighter right now, kind of.
Do I?
Yes.
Good. Smoke and mirrors. No. Yeah, I am a little lighter.
I know there's a little bit of that going on.
No, I'm a little lighter. It's true.
We're doing well. Weather where we are at is really beautiful. So we're outdoors a lot, which is very helpful for all of us. Kids are all right out this window. There's like 27 kids that live in our court, so they're all playing out in the front right now. Things are going well. I am not vaccinated, not the first nor the second. Our family's not yet, but we seem to be doing okay. Kids are in school. Things are plugging along. What I think is very interesting is going to be this shift in workplace, sort of attitudes and how you address and handle business. I have a small business, and interact with clients, and it's going to be interesting to see who wants to interact in which capacity. And so navigating all of that's going to be interesting over the next few months, especially as we hit this June 15th, arbitrary, in my opinion, June 15th date of a reopening. So, but other than that, we're doing it. We are making plans as well. We just got tired of not doing anything. So we've made several different plans and trips, and if they happen, then fantastic. If not, I don't think that we're going to be that disappointed necessarily. You know, we've learned to roll with the punches. So things seem to be going well for us here. Thank you for asking.
Isn't that weird just to know how you kind of adjust your expectations? You used to plan something, you plan a trip, and you're excited for that trip and you can't wait. And that happened to me last year. My sisters and I had a trip planned to Hawaii in April, and that didn't happen. And it was so disappointing. And the emotion I hate, I don't know, is that an emotion that I hate the most is disappointment. Yeah. So I intentionally don't expect a lot. Generally out of people rarely disappoint me because I don't expect much out of people.
Yeah.
But when you have a plan and you're like, oh, I'm so stoked to do this thing, and then it doesn't happen, it's so disappointing. So my sisters and I are going to Sedona in a week. And I so really, really, really want to do this, but I'm kind of holding my breath a little bit because what if it doesn't happen, and I don't want to be let down.
Yeah, I think one of the
being disappointed.
From a, you know, my kids have been asked in some of the school stuff, you know, to kind of go through and identify. They're looking for positives, right, about this last year and I think one of the things, I think that ability to roll with the punches has really been beneficial for me. I do like a plan, and I like sticking to a plan, and I like things falling into place. But I, you know, now kind of living in this space for the last 14 months or whatever it's been, to where you learn to expect the unexpected, and that other people roll with it too, right? I have to roll with it too. I think that's been, it's been good for me. A little sad too, I guess, to not, you know, to kind of manage your expectations, but I think it's been good as well.
You know, what's been interesting for me, because I've spent more time with people, like a variety of things I've done. My expectation is like, I want the time to be meaningful. I want it to be like really, I don't know if deep's the right word, but like have substance to it. And if it doesn't, I'm kind of not that interested, because I've created a life here finally that, I mean, it got really isolated in the winter, but now I'm kind of like, well, this isn't a bad place to be, you know? So it's a trip, that part.
It's so
kind of like what you're saying about the people, right? Like I mean, it's not that I love the people, they're family and friends. And I've noticed that some visits have been way more like restorative and meaningful than others are kind of a little bit more like, I'm not so good anymore at the doing it because I'm there kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's funny. My wife just posted this funny meme yesterday, and it was, you know, you're always saying, don't hesitate to reach out, doesn't hesitate to call. And it was, hesitate to reach out.
How about you, Cassandra? How are you doing?
Good. I mean, you know, just to echo everyone, you know, I've been hanging out with my posse. I've been hanging out since the beginning of COVID. You know, a lot of us have been vaccinated, so we have been planning trips. I got to enjoy to go to Southern California about a week ago, and it was really nice. But I know, even though I'm still, you know, one of the few who are vaccinated, I still had that little anxiety of being out in public, and, you know, in very confined spaces like that. But I definitely, it's like you said, Robin, you know, if it's meaningful, then I'm there. If it's not, then I kind of hesitate now to go do more spontaneous trips than before. So
out of curiosity,
that's
Cassandra, what is the sentiment around friends and people your age around the vaccine?
It's 50-50, I would say. So, you know, there's the ones who really would like to get vaccinated, who feel that, you know, they'll do it for their family. And then there's the ones, you know, let's wait a little bit longer. You know, I think a lot of my friends too are also work in the, you know, restaurant hospitality industry. So those are the ones who really would like to, you know, have that extra, I guess, quote unquote coverage, you know? So
Sure.
Have any of you been inside of a restaurant and eaten? Or are you still, you have? Whoa.
Today was the
Today?
first time. Yeah. So we had that double homicide up in Bridgeport, and we arrested people, and one of them we arrested in Phoenix. So he's been in Maricopa County Sheriff's Jail, and they flew him up today. We picked him up in Mammoth at the airport, and then the transport team took him northbound. But we have these two guys that have flown in here, and we said, "Hey, can we buy you lunch?" So we went to the Good Life, and it was great. I had the eggs Florentine, which I love the eggs Florentine. But it took me halfway through the meal to realize, what, I'm eating inside a restaurant. I have not done that since I did once last summer. But other than that, it's been well over a year since I sat down and had food in a restaurant. It was so weird. I'd eaten outside in Southern California and maybe a couple times here, but actually sitting inside a restaurant, super different. In fact, they don't hand out menus. You have to scan the QR code with your phone, and then the menu pulls up on your phone, which not everybody's that technology savvy. So we're sitting there waiting, and the kid, he came over to take our order, and we're like, well, we don't have menus. And he says, oh, you do, it's right there. Oh, sorry. But
What about the rest of you?
I live in a little bit of a different county, so
Uh-huh.
we've been indoor dining for quite a while.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But I will say, you know, as my family gets, my parents, people are getting vaccinated, they're experiencing similar to what Sheriff Braun kind of referenced. You know, it's been over a year and they'll come here and go in a restaurant, and it's like, it's odd, you know?
yeah, I've actually dined a couple times already here and down in Southern California, but my family and I are planning to dine in next week, so that's going to be interesting. I know they also haven't dined in for the whole quarantine, so that's going to be interesting. We're hoping for warm weather so we can sit outside.
Okay. So it sounds like we're all on the same kind of spectrum of moving back into a life that resembles a life that is familiar. And then having, trepidation about some parts of it. And who knows if it's really about COVID as it is now, or just all that energy we had in the past. Because I don't know about you all, but I've been trying to remember, like, what were those first, like, couple of weeks to 2 months like? And the part that's hard to recall for me anyway is just how scary it was, like we didn't know how it was transmitted. We didn't know who had it. We weren't, like, there was all these things that we didn't know. And what we did know was the ERs were filling, New York was falling apart, collapsing really, people were dying like crazy. And then also the stories of people who had gotten sick and just how sick people were. That was what we started with, right? Like, and it was so intense. And I know that when we started the coping, we talked a lot about, like, how do you hold all that intensity? How do you not, like, hold it in your body so you're scared all the time? But the other part was how angry you would be with people who weren't following the precautions that you might be following, because maybe they're putting your community at risk, but also we're going to make there was a point probably 3 months in for me where I was like, oh, okay, this is going to go on for a long time because we don't have enough people crushing the curve to really make this work. And so, all right, I'm going to get myself ready and then, be at home. So
I remember how those first, so I, on March 16th, flew to LA to fly to Mammoth. So I came to Mammoth and spent the next 12 days alone by myself, really. My family remained at home, and I stayed in Mammoth Lakes for 12 days in the snow while the world was kind of falling apart around me, and we had no information, right? All the information was just, hospitals are filling up, everyone's getting sick. I am a very anxious person, and here I am in the altitude, and so I'm having a hard time adjusting to the altitude, but thinking this has got to be it, this has got to be it every night. But I remember, so because of that, I remember the trauma, I feel like, of those
Mhm.
first couple weeks where it was just so much unknown. I was in the throes of it, as we all were, dealing with it from the county's perspective and the response. And so it was all I lived and breathed, and it became overwhelming.
Well,
To
and
be
you didn't know all of us then either, right? Like you didn't
no,
have really connections here. Yeah.
oh, I had no connections.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was rough. So it was after those 2 weeks, and I finally found a window I just drove home and thought I've got to be with my family, and
Mhm.
because it was not great for my psyche.
Mm-mm. I have this lotion that smells really, really good. It's ginger. And every morning I'd get up and think, can you smell this? You know? And then we had the fires and all that smoke, and I was plugged up for weeks. And every day I'd be like, oh, this is it. Now I have it. What am I going to do? You know?
Yeah. Oh my
And
gosh.
then hearing friends or family members, like my nephew of mine, who at the time was 29, lived in New York City, got very, 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 very sick. And he was one of the people who visited not that long ago, and he was telling me that, it's New York. He doesn't own a car. The taxis had shut down. All transportation had shut down, and they had told him, if these certain things happen, you need to come back. And so he had to walk a mile to get to the hospital to go to the
Oh, wow.
ER, and it took him. Well, he was so delirious with fever, he doesn't know how long, but he thinks it took him like hours and hours, and just, and he's a very young, you know, guy who, that was kind of the first part of at least my immediate family, the foray into, oh, this is super serious, and family members are getting sick, and then no one in my family, but people around my family who died of it, or people around in my family who are in the medical profession and we're dealing with it all the time. I mean, it still is, I think. But now that we're relaxing, I think that's when a lot of those feelings come up, and I think, what was it like? And then remember, wow, like this today, like, oh, I've got coping today. I'm also still not connected to time. I don't know about you all, but that feeling of like, what was it like when we started in our panels, and trying to navigate and manage. And we just tried to normalize, I think, is what we did in this group, right? We talked about how we were doing. I saw that.
Yep.
So this is the final, hopefully, coping with COVID here for Mono County, sponsored by Mono County Behavioral Health, and joined tonight with Cassandra, Justin, and Sheriff Braun. We will come back certainly if needed, and certainly if the community tells us that they'd like to check in. I know at Mono County Behavioral Health, we are starting to do some of our services in person, especially some of our wellness activities like yoga. I don't know if yoga in the park happened up in Bridgeport today because of the snow. We've got a whole menu of things that we're starting to open up and do again, and we're starting to figure out how we're going to see people in person, clients in person. We're available to the community. We've got mental health awareness month is May. I believe suicide awareness week is in May. We've got some activities coming up, so always will be on our Facebook page and website.
Great.
But really wanting people to reach out, and I've had a lot of people reach out to me, or, now that I'm out in the world a little bit more and other people are out in the world a little bit more, bumping into each other and saying, hey, could you help with, this, or could, what is your department doing about that? And so I want to make sure people know that we're here and available in all the ways we were. And actually, we're going to start shifting and changing and be available and, do some things that we weren't doing before COVID, because the community, we were listening, they want to do those things. And so we're going to try it and see.
That's great. Hey, Robin, from your
Hey.
expert opinion, do
Ooh.
you think that, I think that during this last 14 months, there's really been a recognition on the importance of mental health.
Mhm.
And do you think that people, I know for myself, for instance, it was a real awakening for me to understand that mental health is a spectrum, and that, you can go in and out of having episodes or, poor mental health, I feel like, or, whereas before, I think, quite honestly, I think I looked at it as if it were similar to like a cancer, right? It's something you get and you have to deal with and be done. But no, this is right. Do you think that this has been, other people have experienced this? Are you getting more engagement?
Yeah, I think Cassandra, I'd love to know, and Ingrid too, what you guys think, but less like a stigma about it. So
Yeah.
I'll give you my perspective, which is humans need connection. Like we thrive on connection. And when we don't have it, we don't do as well. And we have all kinds of reasons why we will get in the way of connections in our life, like shame or past traumas with humans, or really bad anxiety or depression, or schizophrenia. Any of those things will create a barrier between me and another human. And sometimes connection is just eye contact. Sometimes it's, hello. Sometimes it's actually being able to talk about how you're doing. But when you go through parts of your life where you're not able to have those connections, COVID certainly was a time like that. When you experience like incredible grief, that's a time like that. If you have anxiety or depression and that flares up, that's another time like that. That it affects your well-being. And we've done a very enormous disservice, in my opinion, around mental health, where we've decided that the body and the head aren't actually a thing that actually are together. I mean, obviously it is, but we treat the head kind of like you're saying, like it's this thing that can happen to you and then you need to go somewhere to deal with it. And like I think therapy is the best thing in the world. I love practicing it and I love being a client, and because it's been so useful to me, and I'm so I'm really enamored with the process of all the puzzle pieces. Like, why am I feeling this way, or why am I thinking that? And I know I'm weird, and that's not typical of all people, right? But that's really what mental health, that's what services are, is it's a connection with a human being who's there to listen to you and to help you solve the reasons why you might have disconnection in your life. That's what it is. It's not like somebody reading your mind or figuring out what's wrong with you so they can tell you. That's not good therapy. And so within our department, that's why we do so many things at the program level within our community, because we believe that we're trying to give people opportunities to have connections. And then lots of people do fine. They don't want to do the other stuff, or they don't need to. But I think when you get into a place where you don't feel like yourself for a longer period of time, that is a time when, at least for me, I need to really reach out to find somebody who will help me sort out some things and just make some connection.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Robin. Yeah, I feel like, so I'm a very extrovert person. Just because I previously working here for behavioral health. I worked in the service industry, right? So I did bartending, serving, and I was always surrounded by people. And with COVID happening and having to work from home, super grateful for that. And I had a time where I had to check in on myself, and I had to do my part of, having that sanity of becoming a client and going back to therapy. There's that stigma around mental health, right? About, unless you have, certain issues, that's when you should go. But I think it was definitely the time where I felt like I grounded myself a lot more, in a lot of aspects in my life, just career wise and personal life. And, I think I could say that COVID has been a blessing in disguise in a lot of aspects in my life. So it's, that's one positive thing I've had, but it definitely, I had to sit back and and say, okay, I'm okay. Obviously we didn't know when was this, this whole shutdown, and when can we go back out to see what is normal. And I actually was thinking the other day on a drive, and I was like, what was the last thing I did in a normal world without these regulations, without the mask? And it's like I feel like we just get caught up of living in just in a really fast paced
Mhm.
life, where we actually forget sometimes these, what was it before. So
That's a great point. I can question. Yeah.
Hmm.
Justin, did I
Remember
answer
when we
your?
had
Oh, sorry.
someone?
Go ahead.
I remember we had somebody who was so upset with the concept of the new normal, didn't like what we were calling it, or coping with, didn't like that. But that's exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be new. Normal's not going to be what we used to know. This has changed so much of everything as to how you interact with people or choose not to interact with people. It's kind of giving you the freedom to also say no, right? To just say, no, sorry, it's been a year without you and I'm fine with that. So it is a new normal. It's not going to be the old normal. And I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the people that there's a few kind of categories of people that I'm conceptually worried about because I haven't heard from them yet. But anybody who unknowingly but nevertheless infected another person and that person had either died or got very ill, I worry about those people. I worry about maybe not quite yet, but pretty soon that feeling of dread and regret, right? That whatever, I didn't take it seriously and I infected family members or people in my workplace or whatever, and then people got sick or died. That's a heavy burden to bear. And, prevention's weird, right? Because what we've learned ongoing about prevention is if you tell people like the worst case scenario, most people just go, whatever, screw you, I don't care. Because the fear-based stuff doesn't really work that well. And I know because of my career and, just I grew up with somebody, my father had cancer for a chunk of my childhood. And anytime any of us got sick, it was a huge deal because he was immunocompromised. And so it was always in my mind that I could kill my dad. That's how I took it because I was young. And then when my dad died and I had a cold that wasn't related to his death, but in my head, I had put those two things together for a long time in my life until I was older and went to therapy. And I know people. I have a friend who's got a sibling who's younger who is in a situation like that and starting to feel really freaked out by it, because we are our history, we are our choices, we are who we are. It doesn't go away just when COVID's over, like, okay, well, now I can carry on. So I'm worried about those people. I'm worried not worried, what's the wrong word? I just have concerns for people who really struggled and suffered economically and haven't been able to figure that out for reasons that have nothing to do with them. That's a whole nother large part of our population of people. I mean, I do feel like our federal administration is speaking to that in a way that I feel very, very grateful for. And I know the people around are very grateful for that as well. And then I'm curious about writers and artists, what they're going to do with this like a year or two from now, and also students. Like you have to have a little perspective before you can tell the story that you're in. And what are people going to talk about? That's super curious to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of downstream impacts and
Downstream impacts. I like that.
things that are gonna, we're gonna kind of see over the next few years. I worry about, one of the things I worry about, sort of on the flip side of it, is the fear that kids may have experienced and what that might do going forward. And, watching my kids hesitate to hug people, like that kills me, and what that might do and what that, so there's lots to, I guess, worry about still, but there are a lot of those downstream sort of impacts that we're going to see.
Well, if you're anxious, man, there's always something to worry about.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. I'll always find it.
I know that one really well. Like, now I can worry about these other things that for some reason got suspended for the last 19 months or whatever it's been.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, the best advice is just name it. Just say like, okay, we're going to walk our way through this. We're going to do it and be very concrete. Like, makes sense. I mean, like, because you don't know how you feel with, again, it's perspective, Yeah. And for me, I had gone the 2 years before March 2020 were probably the hardest years of my life, I'm going to say, including that my mom dying and helping my mom die at home. Like I was so unmoored. I was as unmoored and just really, really struggling as I have ever been in my lifetime. And I was just starting to kind of feel like I remember maybe in February of 2020, like starting to feel like myself again. And then all of a sudden,
Wham.
boom, okay, well, it's a good thing you feel like yourself because you're going to spend a lot of time with that person, you know? And so now I'm like, well, okay, am I going to start where I left off, or, you know, like, who am I exactly in all of this? And
Right.
yeah, it's a trip. Well, I will miss this with you all. I've just grown to appreciate. I mean, Cassandra and I get to work together, so I see her in a variety of settings. And Ingrid, I know but appreciate through this, and then Justin, you through this process too. Just I've really grown fond of all of you, and I've grown fond of this conversation for our community. Even if people aren't listening, I have a belief that you put the energy out there, and that we're doing it out of love and caring for our community, and people respond to that,
Yeah.
you know.
Agree. And I think this is great. Thank you for pulling this together. And there's going to be something else that'll drive us to do it again, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's worthwhile. It's a good resource, and it's cathartic for all of us and those that are watching. And there's people on Facebook watching now too. And it gets, you know, watched after the fact. So I appreciate you pulling this together. It's a great resource. And I've enjoyed kind of the evenings with you guys as well.
Mm-hmm. Cassandra and Ingrid?
Yeah, I appreciate this conversation, you know, just a different platform, and, you know, having that, you know, honest conversation about how we're doing. I think, you know, the community really appreciate that and see us in a different, you know, format other than, you know, in our workspace, even though I'm in my workspace. But, you know, I still have that interaction with you all. And, you know, definitely I've grown to know each other, you know, obviously personal and Zoom level, which sometimes feels personable, but I appreciate it, Robin. Thank you for creating this platform.
Mm-hmm. And won't that be
Yeah, this
interesting?
is
Like the people that you know only on Zoom, then like, well, what will that relationship feel like? I'm very curious. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. No, this is the only meeting, so I'm really gonna miss it. The only meeting where I get to be me, and I'm not Sheriff Braun, and I'm not in uniform, and I'm not in my office and all buttoned up. I'm at home. I'm wearing my high school sweatshirt, not from when I went to high school, but the sweatshirt from my high school. So I'm gonna miss. I'm gonna miss all of you, but I like a meeting where I can just be Ingrid. And I know still people call me Sheriff Braun, and that's always going to be my first name until I die. I'm never going to lose that name of Sheriff. But I like being Ingrid too. So I'll miss this, and I'll miss you guys. Not that we won't see each other. I will still I'd like to actually meet Justin in person someday. I don't think that's happened yet. So
it's going to happen.
You need to come out to Mono County.
It's going to happen.
Good. Well, when you come out, will you please let us know so
Yes,
we can definitely do something.
Yeah.
We can cope together in person.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's bring it to an end. And with, you know, a little bit of bittersweetness. I want to also thank Stacey Corliss could not be here. She's got a family, something going on in her family that she's tending to. I know she wanted to be here tonight. We had others. We had Beth Cohen, who joined us quite often, and Linda Salcido. Who else? Lauren Plum joined us for a period of time there.
Christy Milovich was here a couple times.
Christy Milovich, correct, Stephanie. And then we had periods of time where we responded quickly to when it, like I remember we had Frank Freevault, Chief Freevault for a while, or that one time, because that's when I believe it was like in January, maybe February, when it was starting to look really, really, really dire. And I think we'd had another death, and we had like our positivity rate was going up really, really quickly. And people were worried again, like we kind of went through that period where there was a lull and then it picked back up. So I want to thank everybody who's been on the panel and participated, and certainly the public who's participated. Please do keep connecting with us through Facebook or the department. We're around, we're here for you, and thank you.
Thank
Now,
you.
see, if we were all together, we would do some kind of celebration. So,
I know.
It'll happen.
Like
Okay.
a virtual, wait, let's try a virtual high five. Robin, trying to high five her. Right?
We're here.
Because that's where we are.
Thanks, everybody.
thanks you all.
Have a good night. Bye.
Take care out there. Bye-bye.
Right.